Drama's not in the state. Cool and collected weight is tested. Great. Force with stakes. Line, feel the change in the game. No games, no lies, no betrayal will slide. High road or the ride, the choice is decided. These hands are for everybody, only sorry. Confidence is key. With a calm and steady hand, the game is on, and the stakes are grand. But reset, a statement made. No doubt, the path is laid. Focus, determination, a winning blend. The finish line's in sight, and the journey is not the end. It's sports rated E for everybody. Anybody can get these hands. Question or test. The skills are universal, and the knowledge is best. No limits, no bounds. Just pure success. The clock is ticking. The moment's now. Watch the opportunity go down. No hesitation, no fear. The way time is right. See the day. Hands up for the people. No matter the background, no matter the name, these hands are for everybody, and the skills are the same. With every challenge, a chance to grow. Learn from the mistakes and let the wisdom show. The journey's long, but the destination's clear. Stay focused, stay driven, and persevere. EA Sports rated E for everybody. These hands are registered for everybody's gain. Anybody can get these hands. No need to explain. The skills are universal, and everybody. Skill, crafting rhymes, weaving words with precision. Music's the canvas where art and EA Sports rated it for everybody. Innovate ideas, flowing like a stream. The game is on, and the stakes are extreme. With every step, a new path's made. No room for doubt, the future's displayed. Focus and determination, a winning blend. The finish line's in sight, and the journey's just begun to trend. EA Sports rated for everybody. These hands are registered for every. These hands, no need to explain. The skills are universal, and the knowledge remains. EA Sports rated for everybody. These hands for everybody. Skills on display. Crafting rhymes, weaving words with precision. Music's the canvas where art and skill intersect. No need to hesitate. Innovative ideas flowing like a stream. The game is on, and the stakes are extreme. With every step, a new path's made. No room for doubt, the future's displayed. Focus and determination, a winning blend. The finish line's in sight, and the journey's just begun to trend. EA Sports rated it for everybody. These hands are for everybody. A platform to share. Creating music, spreading joy, and showing we care. For everybody to enjoy, to feel, and to be aware. EA Sports rated it for everybody. These hands are for everybody. A tool to express. Making music, creating beats, and finding success.
All
for
right.
everybody to shine, to glow, and to impress. EA Sports rated it for everybody. These hands are for everybody.
Yeah.
A gift to the soul.
Well, all right.
Bringing people together through rhythm and control. For everybody to vibe, to feel.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome, one and all, to the pilot episode of After the Midnight Hour. And we are your host. You have, as always, the engineer, making sure that everything is always sweet and clear. Lady Karima, the lioness, the seventh dancer, Black Beauty Inc. And I'm your brother, your friend, and your servant, Dark Storm. And don't be thrown off by the issue of Black Beauty and Dark Storm. We don't do, everything we do is always righteous. We strive to be, soldiers in the masculine and feminine of the one true God at all times. But we fall short, but still, don't be thrown up by the issue of us advocating darkness. Because you know why? Sometimes too much light in your eyes can blind you. So you need the shade of darkness to cool you down, regenerate, give you a better focus. Okay? And one thing about the Lions Den, however, don't forget, is that whether there's discussions on mathematics, logic, biology, physical, or social issues and sciences, the Lions Den offers you a vast array and diversity of discussions. Now, earlier on, you all saw a longtime brother in faith, Killer Priest, who I know affectionately by his Hebrew name, Karamaya. And they had a very dynamic and powerful, discussion, in the whole of a science, but still, when you tune into the Lions Den, you are tuning into an epic proportion of dynamic, reality in your face, diversity. There's no dogmatic, there's no autocratic, there's just the Lions Den. And again, you are now tuning into the Midnight Hour. Now, normally you always hear us on the segment titled The Conversation Continues, but no, this is After the Midnight Hour. And this formulation, when you tune into the After the Midnight Hour experience, right, we bring you not the 7 eyes, but the dedication factor. Just three 3 building blocks of After the Midnight Hour, and that is we bring you focus, determination, and concentration. Focus, you know, that dynamic where you have to just stay on point at all times. And here it is now, being up at this late hour on my side of the wood to all my super night owls. Welcome. And thank you for allowing us to come into your home, into your mind, soul, and cipher. And of course, we bring determination because we're determined to always bring you quality product, quality production. That's why Black Beauty, she's always on a job. That's why she's called the seventh answer. And in the spirit, let me give dedication to my former mentor, once known in life as the third answer, Brother James Mtume, who lives on in the essence of the seventh answer. All right? And we bring you focus, determination, and the third one, concentration. See, nothing's going to break our dynamic. Nothing's going to break our focus. All right? It's just that simple. No matter what time we come on, we know some of you out there are looking forward to hearing from us. And so after the midnight hour, well, baby, this is it. And see, in this particular forum, when we come on at this hour, we bring focus, determination, and concentration, but we also bring what? The 4 factors of discussion here. We're going to get to the matter of an issue. You know what? Matter is what shapes all things physical, and from a generalistic standpoint, what's the issue we're dealing with? So we're gonna get to the matter. We're gonna get to the truth, because the truth is always all-encompassing. We're gonna get to the spirit of a thing. Like the spirit of love is unselfishness, and so it is when we come here. We come in the spirit of loving you all out there enough to sacrifice our time, our energy to discuss matters that need to be discussed, which now means we're also going to get to the essence of a thing, the basic nature that shapes all things. Like, for instance, what is the essence of courage? Bravery, plain and simple. So, with all that out the way, and we are now going to jump into the issue that we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about Sinners. Not only Sinners, right, the movie, but we're going to talk about Sinners and how there are a lot of elements out here who hate positive Black imagery in media, yesterday and today. But man, Sinners got a lot of people in their feelings, from Black, white, Asian, whoever. Man, everybody feeling some kind of way about Sinners. But before I do that, though, let me just say this here. Because we talking about Black imagery and all that. What I want to do, besides dedicating this pilot show to, again, my former mentor, once known in life as the third answer, James Mtume, I want to dedicate this pilot show, since we're talking about Sinners and Black imagery, I want to dedicate this episode to the memories of my all-time favorite actress. Before there was Halle Berry, there was the beautiful Vanetta McGee. I want to dedicate this show also to the memory of the beautiful, dark, ebony princess Tamara Dobson, better known as Cleopatra Brown. And of course, the recently deceased Black sweetheart, Miss Judy Pace. I dedicate this show to the memory of Mr. Calvin Lockhart, better known as the original Biggie Smalls. Calvin Lockhart, Mr. John Amos, Sidney Poitier, and I'll round it off, of course, with Richard Roundtree, Shaft, and the late great Ron O'Neal, better known as Priest Youngblood, Superfly, or you may remember he was Whitley Gilbert's daddy on A Different World, Mr. Mercer Gilbert. Hey, so let's get it in. Oh man, yo. Up from when Mr. Michael B. Jordan and Mr. Delroy Lindo were insulted by this John Davison creep over here in Britain at the British Academy of Film and Television and Arts, BAFTA, being called nigger bitch by this Tourette's having John Davison. And I'm not insulting anyone who has Tourette's, but this racist using his Tourette's abnormality as an excuse to call Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo nigger bitch is pure hogwash, okay? There's been a lot of hate and heat regarding Sinners produced and directed by Mr. Ryan Coogler, who's given us, I think about 3 chapters of The Black Panther, Fruitvale Station, Creed. Boy, he has been on a winning streak, and white America and white Hollywood in particular, they hate that. Oh, they hate the fact that in these last 15 years or better, black productivity in movies and images we've been winning. We're winning. See? And we're gonna keep on winning. But just all the heat and the hate behind Sinners is utterly ridiculous. And it's just showing you how this country gives it up. Everything's just coming out in the wash. All right, now let me get into it. If you haven't heard, right about now, Mr. Ryan Coogler and all other investors involved in the Sinners Project may be or are about to be hit with a lawsuit by an independent producer by the name of Mr. Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. Mr. Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. is now accusing Ryan Coogler of stealing, borrowing, but I'm going to say stealing his movie, which was in pre-production with the title known as Bloody Freaks. It was a vampire film he had in pre-production in the year 2020. But when you had the entire COVID thing going on, the country was shut down. A lot was, shelved. But Mr. Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. is now asserting that Ryan Coogler, sometime later, which is now, would steal his script, steal it, and with A-class writers, change a few things here and there, and all that good stuff, if you want to call it good, and produce this winning formula known as Sinners. Of course, Mr. Coogler is now denying these allegations, but the point is, timing is everything. Now, there's some people out there asserting that, well, why is he now coming out the woodpile and making this accusation now? To be fair, I understand that sometimes it may, and after the last discussion that the Seventh Answer and I, we engaged regarding the Bill Cosby issue, I have become, a little bit more understanding that sometimes when it comes to lawsuits and when you come up against someone who's more moneyed than you are, has lawyers, a team of lawyers, on retainer, you better have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed when you step to them. Mr. Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. is saying that he's taken some time out to, find legal representation that will be consistent. He had to take his time because of the fact that, again, when he knew that taking on the task of accusing Ryan Coogler of stealing his work would come with a lot of people, pointing the finger, side-eyeing, and all that. So I'm reserving my judgment and my opinion, but I have to say, though, in all honesty, the hate and the attacks on this movie have been utterly racist. And there are those out there questioning, and for good reason, who may be behind Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. and this assertion that Ryan Coogler stole his work, which was, again, a pre-production vampire film tentatively titled Bloody Freaks. And then you have also a number of so-called movie critics here and there, talking about that Sinners is blatantly anti-white, anti-Christian propaganda. You have some religious fanatics saying that, it is a movie rife with disrespecting Christianity, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But something, it just seems to me that no matter what black folk do, there's always a critic. But what got a lot of people upset? Oh, yeah. And, we're going to go into this. Let's just get right into it, right? Let's run this video. I want y'all to listen. We're going to play it straight through. And I'll save my commentary. Seventh Answer. It depends on if Seventh Answer is going to be able to tolerate what she about to hear. Because, like I forgot to mention, sometimes when things it's a little ridiculous or over the top, she's no nonsense. Where I might be able to tolerate she yanks it with the quickness. So we're going to see. But for some of you out there, buckle up. Because this is going to be bloody. No pun intended. All right. Seventh Answer, let's take it away.
Hey, fellas! Yeah! Kill Whitey!
Sinners has already won many awards and will go on to win many more because it has a predominantly black cast, talks about slavery, dismisses Christianity, and most importantly, absolutely despises Whitey.
Well, it's already broken the Oscars all-time nominations record, and I got a feeling it's going to get a lot of wins.
And that's such a black pill because if you removed all the propaganda that's in this movie, it's still a terrible film in its own right. But when you consider not only how bad of a film it is, but also the absolutely disgusting anti-white messaging of this movie, it's absolutely an abomination.
Watching this, even if I turned my brain off to all the disgusting nonsense in this film, the first hour is such a drag, and then the second hour is complete chaos with no logic or reasoning. It's amazing.
Pretty much, but ignore all that because people will gaslight you into trying to make you believe that this film is a deep exploration of black identity in the face of oppression and cultural appropriation by the white devils who seek to use Christianity to erase black people's identity. And it paints whites as vultures and uses that same imagery many times throughout the movie to show that Whitey seeks to exploit the vastly superior black culture just to profit from it. Through years of propaganda, they've convinced tons of people that through films like Sinners, that they need to not only acknowledge, but atone for the sin of being white.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not.
But let's get straight into our reasoning for why we think this and not waste time. The movie starts with us in Clarksdale, Mississippi in the year 1932, and we're introduced to our protagonist, Sammy. The first scene is him stumbling into a church, all bloodied, disheveled, and at this point in the movie, we don't have the context to fully understand what is happening. But what we do see is Jedediah, who's Sammy's father, starts to give him a monologue about repenting, and interspersed all throughout it, we're shown these shots of Remick, who will be our primary antagonist and is a vampire, which quite clearly indicates that the church isn't much different than these blood-sucking vampires that we're going to get acquainted with later in this film.
Well, the subtext isn't exactly subtle. Like, whether it be evil white people or your own family full of God-fearing Christians, all they're trying to do is keep a brother down. That's it.
Following this, we're now in,
Free all this for a day.
and his father wisely tells him,
You keep dancing with the devil.
Hey, bro, can you make
Yeah, I'm here. You talking to me, Seventh
I'm
Dancer?
gonna follow you home.
and what's crazy is this
All right.
I
Why?
ain't saying nothing.
Oh, okay. I see it's freezing up.
Nah, it
But let me
was
just get right to.
That was
Let
a
me-
commercial. I just skipped.
Oh, okay, hon. Okay, my bad.
comes after Jedediah makes a perfectly reasonable request to Sammy that he assist him in preparing his sermon for church tomorrow rather than playing music for drunks in a club. But you can immediately tell by the tone of this scene that it's meant to paint Christianity as a burden that exists just to restrict individual freedom. We're then introduced to the Smokestack twins as they buy an old sawmill from a white man named Hogwood, and they plan to transform it into a juke joint. Now, Hogwood is an evil, terrible racist, and while they're discussing the details of the sale, he calls them boys, to which they immediately respond by threatening him, but then giving their money to him.
And if we see you or any one of your clan buddies cross our property line, we're gonna kill them right where they stand.
In the next scene, the twins pick up Sammy, find out it's their cousin. As they're driving down the road, Sammy's daydreaming about being in Chicago where there's no Jim Crow laws.
All the black characters throughout the movie want freedom from the white man. And as we'll see throughout the film, their definition of freedom is opening up a den of iniquity and excluding whitey to engage in all manner of hedonism. So they're mad about Jim Crow law, but what do they plan to do? Separate entirely in their own little den of sin. Eventually through the scene, what we have is Smoke saying that Chicago isn't nothing but Mississippi with tall buildings instead of plantations. And then further, he says,
And that's why we came back home. Figure we might as well deal with the devil we know.
and this is how you will see the movie continually refer to white people. And sometimes they even get so explicit as to say white devil. And of course, one of the things you later see is that Hogwood, you know that evil racist from before? Well, it turns out he's late because white people are always late to everything.
Cracker showing up, they already got us behind schedule.
Because of course, we have to simply invert the stereotypes. But at this point, they go their separate ways and split up. Now, we then follow Smoke into town. And what's funny is even in the black part of town, Smoke can't leave his truck unattended for 5 seconds without blacks trying to steal from it. I mean, blacks are so oppressed in this movie that the police don't even seem to care in the slightest that Smoke just shot 2 people in the street. Smoke then goes on to buy supplies from the Asian family that runs the general store in the segregated part of town. And when the Asian girl goes to get her mother to begin negotiations with Smoke, the subtitles that play throughout this are actually kind of hilarious. Now, according to the subtitles, and this is a value-free analysis, this isn't me adding anything, shooting each other is just what black folk do. That's
Wait,
what
that's
it
actually the
says.
subtitle?
Yes, that's what it says.
I think I watched it without. That's amazing.
Yes, that's exactly what it says. Well, it's sure is good to see that nothing's changed in about 100 years later. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
But they are who we
Okay, you know what?
But
I
while Smoke is
promise.
in
I
town,
promise.
Stack
Stop,
and Sammy are driving around to recruit others to help them at the juke that night.
Now I had promised I was gonna not let play it straight through, but ladies and gentlemen, I have to come in now. Let me just come in real quick. See, what we're looking at and what you're listening to, right, is the sentiments of geeks. Well, there's a crew of geeks, white geeks. Let me just be clear. And as you can hear, they're hating on this movie because you know why? Let's just get right down to the essence of it. The imagery of black men on film, being able to say what needs to be said, how it should be said. Throughout the years, there has been a deliberate effort to wipe out powerful black male and female imagery in movies. See, during the period of the 1970s, when you had this title called Blaxploitation, there were a lot of white supremacists and geeks who felt some kind of way about seeing Richard Roundtree, Calvin Lockhart, Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby, and so many others doing their thing, independent, okay, Ron O'Neal, and then having white women chasing after them, dreaming about these men, okay? Oh, they couldn't stand it. The fact that Richard Roundtree single-handedly had saved MGM. All right? And then years later, you would have Wesley Snipes. Although he don't get the credit, because, you know, when black folk, we do things and save white America's ass, they never want to give us credit. And they get mad when they see movies like this outdoing them. Okay? That's why these two here are so full of hate and angry, talking about it's anti-white. But like I was saying, here it is. We all know if you've been paying attention, that the reason that these Marvel movies have been so successful is because you had Wesley Snipes save Marvel from going out of business when he produced and made under his Amon-Ra production Blade. See, they don't want to give him the credit, but Wesley Snipes is the reason why Marvel movies are what they are now. Blade. And that's real talk. So because you have in this movie the dynamic where in 1930s Mississippi, this Ryan Coogler, along with Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo, and the other black cast, and even in the white cast, being able to just lay out what was going on racially, these supremacists, they hate it. They can't stand it. And especially when you have Haley Steinfeld, who played Mary, this young white woman chasing after and loving Michael B. Jordan's character Stack. See, this is what it's really all about. That's why you're hearing these two bozos, okay, and others with all this, oh, it's anti-white. No, it's not. It's just showing you how America operates. And see, they can't take accountability for a goddamn thing. That's just real talk. Go ahead, Seven Answer. Run them. Let's run it.
And the opening scene of them driving in the car, I kid you not, is Stack teaching Sammy how to muff dive.
And you'll see that constantly throughout this movie. This movie is degenerate. I needed a shower after watching it.
In case y'all don't know, there's a common stereotype that black men don't eat coochie. So again, this is another black stereotype that they immediately tear down, although they've just affirmed a white stereotype that doesn't even exist just minutes earlier. Stack then goes to recruit a musician named Delta Slim, and he uses Irish beer to convince a clearly struggling alcoholic to come play blues for him in their juke. And while he's talking to Slim, Sammy meets a woman named Pearline, finds out that she's married, and instantly tries to smash.
I'm married, by the way.
Riverside, the fastest way to go from idea to episode.
His first instinct.
Subtle.
We then introduced to Stack's former fling, Mary, who happens to be white, and she's extremely angry that Stack left her and didn't even come to her mother's funeral. And she goes off on him because of this. And I thought it was funny because after her outburst, Sammy remarks to Stack that,
Maybe she ain't white.
and it's just so fitting that he sees her being loud and making a huge scene in public as this inherently black quality.
I was in a doctor's office not too long ago, and you know what was happening? There was a fat black woman sitting in the reception area playing a gambling app on her phone at full blast.
And every single person watching this, whether you'll admit it or not, you know you see this all the time. Don't lie to yourself. And it's always full blast on the volume.
Well, and they're claiming ownership of it. This isn't like, oh, we're sorry, we'll turn it down. This is like, yeah, this is the black quality. That's what she's saying.
They're almost kind of daring you to say something. After this scene, we cut to Stack, Sammy, and Slim in the car. They pass by some prisoners, and Slim tells the prisoners, hold your heads. It turns out the reason that they're having to work the roads is because they were in prison for vagrancy.
Man, you remember whenever we actually used to enforce laws?
And it's funny you say that. I can't wait for people to say that these laws just disproportionately targeted blacks. I wonder why that is.
You mean the same way that the murder laws disproportionately target blacks?
Somehow that tiny percentage of young black men is just overly represented. It must be just bad luck.
Just the white man doing what he does.
Slim even goes on to explain that he was part of one of these groups and that because they were good musicians, the white folks let them out of prison to play music instead of serving time. And not only that, they even got paid to do so and drank all the money away. That sounds like some serious privilege to me, but what do I know?
Well, and then by being blessed with this privilege from the white man to serve a lessened sentence because you're a skilled musician, he then draws the conclusion that
See, white folks say they like the blues just fine. They just don't like the people who make it.
And there's also repeated remarks throughout this whole film that Christianity falsely paints blues out to be the devil's music. But would you like to hear some song lyrics from Robert Johnson, arguably the most famous musician linked to Delta blues? This is a quote. This is an exact quote. He says, "Me and the devil walking side by side, gonna beat my woman until I get satisfied." That is a quote. That is a quote.
Truly black excellence, dude.
Delta Slim then goes on to mention that white people have no rhythm because only white stereotypes are true, not the black ones.
Speaking of having no rhythm, there's a scene later in the movie where in the juke, they stomp a guy's head in to the perfect rhythm of the blues song that's playing at the time. In perfect rhythm. Pale, pale moon, stomp, 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 pale, pale moon, stomp, stomp, stomp.
Yeah, I'm all too happy to be off rhythm if this is what you associate it with.
It's crazy too, because that scene is played like it's this empowering thing.
Right? Hey, leave them alone so they can kill each other. What do you even say? But let's move a little further. They eventually go to recruit a fellow Type 2 named Cornbread to be their doorman. And then after that, his old flame Annie recruits her to come serve food at this juke joint. Now, this woman, Annie, is into hoodoo magic, and it's revealed that they previously had a daughter that died, which will come into play later in the movie.
But finally, we get our first view of our main antagonist, Remick, and the scene is shot in such a way that he kind of drops out of the sky and quickly runs up onto the porch of the house that's in frame. Now, how did he survive in the sun for so long? When they zoom out this kind of wide shot, it looks like there's nothing around for miles, but this house, I mean, when he makes it to the porch, he's literally smoking. And of course, the couple that answers the door for him, there's a very, very blunt camera shot that shows their KKK robes in the background, in case we didn't know that every white person was evil. But soon after his arrival, these very righteous Native Americans come and try to warn this couple about this dangerous man that they've been chasing. It's kind of fitting because obviously the Native Americans were Whitey's first victim after all.
This just feeds into the classic noble savage trope that's been perpetuated in Hollywood for a long time. But moving right along, we then fast forward to a scene where the juke joint finally opens up. Unfortunately, we see Mary yet again, and she proves to be nothing more than a typical mulatto female race trader.
And you say that because it's actually revealed she's an 8th black, since she says that her grandfather was half black.
And it's funny, Mary herself comes out and says,
I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be with you.
I had no clue race was negotiable, and you could just ignore the other 7/8 of your heritage just to focus on that 1/8 that you like. And if this is the case, why did she even agree to marry a white man instead of being with Stack because that's all she wanted? Like, whenever they're discussing Mary's situation, it turns out that she is married to a white man, at which point she says,
Yeah, I want no white man.
it's like, but you did. But it turns out you don't even love him. You just used him and you want to be with this guy Stack. This chick, Mary, literally chooses the bear. And she wants so badly to shed her whiteness, leave behind her wealthy white husband, and be with this career criminal and former pimp, which is crazy. Like, the movie portrays every white character other than her as and she's absolutely a warning.
Now, do you see what I'm talking about? Do you hear what these guys are saying? Now, here it is. You got YouTube and all the other social platforms always talking about, standards and everything. These guys are blatantly racist. Where's the Federal Communications Commission hammering them and coming down on them? Because as you can see, they're having a hard time, like all these other supremacists and geek clubs out here. They're having a hard time with the reality that this movie was showing and dictating. Oh yeah, so they got a hard time seeing a white woman chasing after a black man. They got a hard time. In reality, how a lot of white women talk about how they want black men versus white men. See, art imitates life, and this is what they're having a hard time with. See, Ryan Coogler, he went for the jugular vein. Vampire movie, he went for the jugular vein. See, white America have a hard time when they're reminded of their bloody history and what they've been doing. Now, you heard earlier on one of them say, well, this movie is disgusting. I needed a bath because of the immorality. Well, wait a minute. So what movies like Animal House, movies like Revenge of the Nerds, and so many other white movies where decadence, debauchery, and all kinds of raunchiness. Oh, we shouldn't, those are works of art. Okay, how about The Sopranos? Where every episode, someone was getting their head blown off and all kinds of other chicanery. It was a masterpiece and a work of art. You see, this is what and why we have to come here and be able to review and break down what the real deal is. There's a lot of, in the last 10 years, because Ryan Coogler been on a winning streak, and his movies alone have been outgrossing a lot of white productions. They can't stand it. That is why Sinners is getting hit so hard with so much criticism. I mean, matter of fact, you have this one movie critic who calls himself Stevie Knight. His description, like these guys, of the beautiful, what's the name? I gotta be careful when I pronounce the name. The very beautiful Wunmi Mosaku, who played Annie, the beautiful jet black, beautiful dark-skinned, wife of Smoke. You heard it. You had Stevie Knight, a black man, or we call him Stevie Coon, describe her as a fat black woman. What? Seriously? Now here it is. I want to remind our white viewers out there. Now, when you had movies depicting black people as slaves and as servants and all these other derogatory imagery Black men in dresses and all that. Oh, it's all good and it's all peaches and gravy. Or peaches and cream, I think, yeah. It's all good. When black people are just displayed in all kinds of racial stereotypes back in the 1930s and 40s, you know, Step and Fetch It, and all those, the Little Rascals and all those other movies and television shows of the time. Oh, it was so funny. A lot of you out there, you found Robert Downey Jr.'s black portrayal in the movie Tropic Thunder to be hilarious. And tour de force. Oh, but now when you have Sinners and Black Panther showing brothers doing it, saying what need to be said, how it should be said, and overall, you got your precious white woman lusting after, oh, now it's a problem. Man, come on, man. That's why they're hating on Sinners, because metaphorically, allegorically, whatever oracle you want to just, or literal, Ryan Coogler is showing the pulse of America. And they can't, and here it is in the last number of weeks. From Britain to America, the racism is off the Richter scale. Let's continue to review this very racist review, Karima. But we're just showing you this is what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And this is what's being allowed by the Federal Communications Commission. I want you to think about that for a second. They're allowing these two bozos to come here and say what they're saying. Think about that for a second. Meanwhile, powerful productions like ours, they on our butts for every little thing we say or do. Go to work, Seventh Answer.
That even the most well-intentioned race-mixed people will eventually come and corrupt black culture. And she's painted in a morally positive light.
Imagine if you could turn any idea in your mind into a perfect real.
But she still can't fully overcome it.
It is never enough. If whiteness exists in you, it will corrupt.
That is the message. Now, moving along even further, we then fast forward to a part where Sammy sings a song about his dad. Now, he sings this song called I Lied to You, which is about abandoning his religion to sing the blues. And in the chorus of the song, he uses the line, "Somebody take me in your arms tonight." Sammy simply wants to throw his religion away just to get some nookie. That is what the song is about. Abandoning your family and your religion to get laid. That is what he's after as a character.
Now, interspersed through him singing this song, there's a scene where Delta Slim explains to Sammy,
blues wasn't forced on us like that religion. You know what I'm saying? We brought this with us from home. It's magic what we do.
And now we get to my favorite scene in the movie. This scene is tough, man. I not only burst out laughing when it happened, but I lost brain cells. And yet, this is the scene that all these film critics and people that just eat up the propaganda will tell you is amazing and transcendent.
Yeah, even the critical drinker who decries the message love this scene because it displays how rich black culture is.
So there was a monologue, which was the first thing we actually hear and see on screen before the movie started, talking about griots, which are these ancient West Africans that can summon their ancestors with their music, but they can also summon dark spirits, we're told. So while Sammy is playing this song that we talked about, the magical nature of his song conjures up African tribesmen, but not only that, it summons DJs up on the stage, a black woman twerking, and like random modern day gangsters crip walking. I am not kidding with you. These are the visions we see that represent the rich black culture. And to add on to that, the scene then transitions to where we see the roof being on fire and the building burning down around them, which I'm sorry, but I couldn't help but think they just couldn't hear the smoke detector beeping because of all the obnoxiously loud hip hop that he summoned from the future. That's where my head went.
And as all this is happening, the vampires are outside watching this from afar.
And the way this shot is from behind the vampire's perspective, the obvious implication to the audience is that Black culture, in the form of blues music in this case, is so magical and transcends space and time. But unfortunately, its uniqueness and its beauty also attracts vampires, aka whites, to come bleed it dry and to profit off of it. And again, on top of the vampire symbolism, this really also feels like an allegory for the, quote, exploited Black artists by the music industry executives. I find that a pretty funny allegory when you consider who owns the majority of the record labels. And let me give you guys a hint. They don't consider themselves white.
I'm not going to say what race, what people. We know I can't say that. It was a Jew.
I mean, the same could be said also for the slave ships. We ain't going to talk about that. But getting back to the movie, I can't help but wonder if this scene of the juke joint literally being on fire and burned down with vampires looking in is a not so subtle way of them saying that all of these sinners are going to hell for their choices. And you even have a line in there, this amazing line.
Witness our ritual. We heal our people. We be free.
While they're twerking and hip hop is playing.
Megan Thee Stallion teleporting in from the future and twerking is the cure for white oppression. That's the deepness of this film's subtext that you've heard all about. And speaking of deep and profound subtext, the next scene is Sammy going down on Perlene, despite her just saying that she needs to wash up. And his reply was,
I just want to taste you.
She literally just told this man her cooch was stanky, and he just dives right in.
Disgusting.
We then cut to a conversation between the twins, and we find out pretty quickly that while they're experts at robbing and stealing, because that's where they got all the Irish beer and Italian wine to start this business and where they got the money for it, they are absolutely pitiful at infrastructure and maintenance.
It's art being true to life.
Think about this. The twins
Grandma.
realize
See,
that they're going to be out of
see,
money in 2 months.
You know what? I'm really glad they made this review. I'm glad they put that the FCC and YouTube allow these guys. See, I want y'all to hear what we're dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? See, they talk about black mockingly about Black culture, but when it comes down to our music, science, creation, who has benefited from it? Who has always want to latch on, attach themselves to, emulate, imitate? Who? Them. See, they having a hard time. Again, see, Sinners is making everyone face who and what they are. Yeah, vampires. Who's been the bloodsuckers of our people? Through slavery. See, this is what Sinners is reminding them of. See, this is what they can't stand. To be reminded. That's why, again, they're hating on the movie because, again, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, dare I say it, and I will, they've taken up the mantle of the late Nipsey Hussle and producer, okay, my God, why do I get brain freeze at the most? John Singleton. There you go. John Singleton and Nipsey Hussle, who, before their untimely deaths, with Mr. Hussle being assassinated, they were in the works of doing what? Galvanizing black men, black gangs, and women, and as well, to come together, unify, pool your monies in our bit, and pool black businesses, all that. See, they're making jokes about, they stole from Irish and gangsters and they can't run a business. But wait a minute, hold on. In this time frame of 1930, what was going on, you all? The bombing of Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Lake Lanier, and all that. See, this is what, Ryan, this is why they hate this movie. This is why even Asians are now getting in on it, because you know why? Let me not get too ahead of myself. But you understand, this is why you need, after the midnight hour, you need the Lion's Den in your life. And while some of you may be sleeping and you're going to watch this in replay, we were up. Let the record show. We were up here at currently now almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And on Karima's side, about to be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever. We up doing this and revealing these punks for what they are. Just racist, evil, jealous-hearted pussies. Just call them what they are. Pussies. Go ahead, Seventh Answer. Run the video, please.
Since a large portion of their customers are using plantation money to pay for food and drinks, they were smart enough to successfully rob the Italian and Irish mobs of Chicago of all their beer, wine, and money, but somehow didn't consider that their customer base not being able to use real money was a problem.
You can't make it up, dude. It's so funny.
Well, it's like what happens with every movie that uses this modern leftist lens. It cannot survive contact with reality. It just can't.
Right. The whites who were standing outside the vampires, they see the black people healing themselves with their culture and have come to crash the party. When the vampires ask to come in and enjoy the party and also play music, they do a little musical number called Pick Poor Robin Clean. And from what we've seen, you probably guessed it, that there is the most blunt subtext I have ever seen. It's very clear the implication here is that these vampires, again, aka whites, are here to pick clean the corpse of black culture, in this case, the blues, and exploit it.
There's a line in the song they sing where he says, I picked his head, I picked his feet, I would have picked his body, but it wasn't fit to eat.
It has all the subtlety of a frying pan to the nuts. It's ridiculous. Now, this is further reinforced, like we said before, when you see vultures flying in the sky to drive home the point that these white people and all white people are simply culture vultures that are always lurking around. And they can't come in since they follow the standard vampire rules of needing to be invited in. So the vampires are denied entry specifically because they are white. And then one of them asks, well, how did Mary get in there? And Annie responds,
She here because she family.
The vampires then ask for the ultimate liberal fantasy, which is for everyone to be colorblind so that they can all be family for one night. At which point, Smoke reaches for his gun.
Can't we just, for one night, just all be family?
Take note, liberals. This is how they feel about you.
And keep in mind, they have no reason to believe these are vampires at this point. They just see that they're white, and that is enough to completely ostracize them, because in the eyes of this film, there's zero daylight between white people and vampires. After turning the white vampires away, Smoke is upstairs talking to Sammy, and he warns him that he hasn't met a happy musician, and that typically the life of a musician only satisfies for so long. But Sammy's young and defiant, and he disagrees. He said that he loves this life and he wants to continue to pursue a music career. Smoke tells Sammy that if he's dead set on running away from the plantation and pursuing music, that he needs to go to this place called Mound Bayou that was founded by free slaves and is entirely black owned.
Now, we actually bothered to research Mound Bayou, and it further reinforces how fake the narrative around black owned communities is. One of the things I saw, almost every available source treats it as a paradise of black excellence, yet these same sources claim that the reason it failed is because when desegregation began, all the blacks left and chose to live in white suburban areas instead. Now, I bothered to look into some old newspaper articles from about the early 1900s, suggesting that education was a massive issue even back then for Mound Bayou, and as time goes on, it only gets worse. I mean, even recently, the school was shut down there for a variety of reasons. This includes the questionable usage of funds. This includes bad food, according to a student, which, by the way, lunch was entirely free for every student in the Mound Bayou school.
Yeah, on the Mississippi taxpayers' dime, of course.
And that school had an F in accountability rating from the state of Mississippi. Whether in the 1900s or now, not much has changed. When you actually look into it, you see that this school is crap, and it always was.
The impending financial trouble of the twins motivates Mary to go check if the vampires can help out the Juke financially.
What about them crackers?
What about them?
I can go feel them out before they're too far gone.
And Mary once again cannot wait to betray her own race fast enough and sell them out to help the career criminal and former pimp who she is madly in love with, so that she can leave her evil white husband in the dust. That is all white people are to the makers of this film. They're just living, breathing wallets, because they claim that whites are the real vampires. But in reality, who is it that eats up exorbitant amounts of taxpayer dollars?
And that's what's so offensive about this movie and the framing that it constantly engages in. It is an active inversion of reality. But getting back to the movie, after a failed attempt to take advantage of the vampires that are outside, Mary eventually gets killed. But before that, the vampires are outside playing an...
You hear what they said? Did you catch that? The whole welfare trope? Who eats up the welfare? When welfare was a white program known as the National Recovery Act. But see, you see what I'm talking about? See, again, this is why we have to have our own and speak our own, because see, like Malcolm X, you know, you heard him say, well, here it is. They were pushed away because they were white. But wait a minute, hold on. Who made up the whole issue of white-only diners, white-only water fountains, white-only swimming pools, movie houses, no colors allowed, and all that? See, I guess they forgetting that part of the history. All right? And it's the thing, like Malcolm X, you can't please them. When you want to get away from certain white folks, why you guys gonna be separate? But then when you want to be near them, not too close. Like Malcolm said, you can lay down on the ground and say, walk all over me, Mr. White Man. He'll say, roll on your other side, nigga. You can't please them. So the movie, dealing with real life, making white folks face what they've done, how they operate. Here to my black culture in the song Pit Poor Robin Clean. Let me remind you of books like The Delectable Negro, where it's on record. You had certain enclaves of white people eating black people's flesh. Books like The Delectable Negro. How about feeding black children to alligators as alligator bait and crocodile bait? See this movie allegorically, realistically, in your face. Ryan Coogler like I said, he went for the proverbial juggler vein. Vampire movie, and he's biting America's butt. And again, they can't stand it. They can't handle it. Or they can talk about you and make movies that are not true about us, push this racial stereotype of the welfare system. Meanwhile, who are the biggest beneficiaries of the welfare roles and systems? And I'm mad at Donald Trump right now because he's cutting their legs off too. I ain't gotta say it. You already know where I'm going. But these two bozos here, that doesn't compute in their logic. We're gonna continue on. You're now tuned into After the Midnight Hour. Let's go to work, Seventh Dancer. Let's go to work.
Irish folk song called Go Lassie Go. And this song, of course, is an Irish folk song about inviting a woman to walk through nature. And it's very wholesome and actually kind of a pretty song.
But as everything in this movie, if it's sung by a white person, it must have a dark nature about it. And of course, the lyrics match up perfectly with inviting Mary to assimilate and give up that last little remaining bit of black identity that she still has.
And for whatever reason, and this scene, again, is very hilarious, Mary realizes that they're vampires. And instead of walking back to the juke joint while pointing the gun at them, she turns her back on the vampires. And then Remick, he turns on creative mode in Minecraft and jumps on her. And it needs to be said, these special effects are terrible consistently and throughout this whole movie. They look awful.
But unbeknownst to the patrons inside the juke, Mary is now a vampire and she is invited back in by Cornbread. And it's in this scene that I hear quite possibly the cringiest line of dialogue I have heard in a film in my life. I can't make this up. She says to Stack, "You rob banks and trains, but can't steal this pussy for a night?" I can't, dude. What Redditor wrote this?
Where did you stash the bananas?
I keep telling you, they're in the sack.
Oh, very.
It's so bad, man. It's so bad.
Ryan Coogler, who directed this, is considered an elite director and writer. This is the pass you're given when you're the right skin tone. Mary then uses her feminine wiles to seduce Stack and eventually bite him and turn him into a vampire. But it's interesting because when Smoke and Sammy break in while she's biting him, Smoke mag dumps both of his pistols into her, but it still doesn't kill her. And she says to them,
Who ain't gonna kill every last one of you?
and then runs straight out of the juke. What's interesting here is that it's established she's bulletproof and wants to kill everyone else, yet doesn't bite anyone else and runs out of the juke. Mary being the one that turns Stack really feels like a message that even the most well-intentioned whites that on the surface level are allies are still susceptible to the pool of systemic racism and will eventually bring you down with them. Cornbread then tells Slim he needs to take a pee break and waddles on out into the tree line and, of course, gets jumped by the vampires and turned. And one thing we've seen consistently with the vampires up to this point is that they're extremely polite in their demeanor, and Cornbread adopts this after he turns.
Being kind to one another and being polite. Now we is one people.
And again, they're not subtle at all with this. He's clearly adopting the mannerisms of whites after being infected by their culture. Isn't it great that the evil of Whitey is having good manners? That's the deep infection that he's wrought with.
What it also reinforces the things we were saying before about being loud and obnoxious being an integral part of being black. This is intentional. They know what they're doing. They're daring you to say something about it.
And when Cornbread comes back from his bathroom break, he asks to be let back in, but Annie instantly realizes that he's a vampire and stops him from coming in. Cornbread gives a big speech about being kind and polite and being all united as one people. And once again, it really feels like a representation that the whiteness hasn't affected him and his black identity is being eroded from the inside out.
Let's go ahead and use several quotes to reinforce this. Annie says to Cornbread,
Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead. That one of them white folks out there killed you and you a hate now.
Then Cornbread looks at her and says,
Well, it be your own peoples. No, I thought you was better than that. But you just like the white man.
which again shows that Whitey is not to be trusted because he is a race traitor. The worst part is he's kind of right.
Modern day whites in America cannot wait to erase themselves fast enough.
Yes.
They cannot wait. And a lot of it is years and years of this type of propaganda being pumped into the heads of our grandparents and parents who just accepted it blindly and just took it at face value, that multiculturalism is the greatest good we can achieve.
Now, eventually they go back inside and shut the door. Then as it would happen, Stack, who the entire cast thought was dead, has now been turned. He pleads to be let out of the room that he's locked in, but to no avail. Eventually, he breaks the door down on top of Sammy. Now, Annie, perceiving that this would happen, takes a jar of pickled garlic and splashes it in his face, and he runs out.
We then cut to outside the juke where Remick now has an army of vampires from all the guests that the twins had sent home earlier. They're all in a circle and they're singing an Irish folk song called The Rocky Road to Dublin. The song's lyrics show the difficulties faced by the Irish due to famine and British colonization, and they're dancing an Irish jig while singing, which represents this defiance against the British laws that had previously banned traditional Irish cultural practices. Making Remick, who is the first vampire that we see Irish, was such a clear decision to show that while Remick's people were also oppressed by the whites, which resulted in a loss of his culture, he's now engaging in the same behavior that previously oppressed him. because even though he and the Irish were victims of colonial oppression, that deep-seated hatred that burns in every white man's heart is just too strong for him to empathize with the blacks and not force their assimilation.
Now, as Remick shows up, he promises that he's going to provide everyone a way out. And he says,
This world already left you for dead. Won't let you build. Won't let you fellowship. We will do just that. Together. Forever.
now keep in mind, this is the main antagonist saying this. This is an evil vampire, and he's offering them assimilation, which means from the perspective of the writer of the movie, assimilation and coexisting with the white race is literally painted as embracing evil and making a deal with the devil. This is how thick we're laying it on with this movie.
And you can try and make the argument all you want. Well, the vampires don't necessarily represent whites. They beat you over the head with the fact that the vampires are very clearly culture vultures and represent systemic oppression. It's not subtle.
Now, the vampires, who were all white at the beginning, continue to warn against white men. I mean, Remick reveals that he wants Sammy because he's trapped here and can't see his ancestors, but Sammy can summon them with his music. He reveals to them that the guy that they bought the sawmill from is the Grand Dragon of the KKK, and that he plans to come kill them in the morning. But he says that if they join Remick and his gang as vampires...
Now that we got numbers, we'll probably go to that old bigot and rectify him, too.
I love the insinuation that bigotry is a bridge too far, even for Satan. He's
It's
like,
so
you know,
funny.
I'm down for child sacrifice, but saying the N-word, that's a no-go.
That's incredible.
Remick offers the people inside the Juke unity in the form of a hive mind because it's revealed all the vampires can see each other's memories. And again, this is very obviously symbolic of black culture being erased and them being forced to assimilate. Stack even pleads with Smoke to become a vampire because he tells him,
when my streaming bill hit $180 a month for channels I don't even watch, I didn't get mad. I got friendly.
When they locked me into a 2-year contract just to watch basic channels, I didn't get mad. I got friendly. When I needed a
It was never gonna be free. We've been running around everywhere looking for freedom. You know damn well you was never gonna find it.
did you ever consider, Stack, that maybe that's because you won't stop engaging in criminal activities? And just in case that the bluntness of this scene missed us, Grace goes out of her way to call Remick.
Speaking of Grace, this woman has the ultimate retard moment of the entire movie and invites all of the vampires in because they threatened her daughter.
I also want to say she quite literally bites the hand of the black man who tries to keep her from doing this to be able to scream.
And of course, the one Asian woman who is still left and alive is the weak link while all the blacks stand in solidarity. Meaning this, you can trust no one but your own race to look after your interest. Assimilation is not an option in the mind of the writers. It's a deal with the devil, and it's tantamount to erasure.
The scene of the vampires rushing into the Juke after her invite is also just comedy, man. From the cartoonish, fake-looking blood squirting everywhere to the laughably bad choreography, it's very hard to take this scene seriously. Also, the vampires completely overwhelm them, and right as they're about to finish the last remaining few off, Smoke keeps his promise and kills Annie before she can become a vampire. And for some reason, all the other vampires just stop attacking and leave the barn, despite there only being 4 human members in the Juke left alive and them having a massive numbers advantage. And to make it even better, they immediately come right back in 2 seconds later after leaving the barn.
Now, eventually, we see Sammy get caught by Remick in an attempt to flee, and he's so scared that he begins to recite the Lord's Prayer. You know, this evil thing that was forced on him by his father, that's what he's doing. Now, all the vampires know this because Christianity was forced upon them by the greatest evil of all, you know, white Christian men. Then Remick begins forcibly and repeatedly dunking Sammy under the water, symbolizing the Christian tradition of baptism, at which point Smoke pulls an Arya Stark and teleports through a massive crowd of vampires to stab Remick in the back and drive a stake through his heart.
Now, the only argument that you could possibly make for how Smoke got past this massive crowd of vampires is that they were stunned because just before this, Sammy bashed Remick over the top of the head with the guitar, and it had a silver piece in it for some reason that hurt him, and they felt his pain. But even if we accepted that, Smoke moves silently through waist-high water, and after stabbing Remick, the sun then instantly rises and burns all the vampires away. In fact, the way they shoot it, you can still see the moon fairly high up in the sky, so that the transition just happens almost instantly. If you're going to use this film as this vehicle to talk about cultural appropriation and whites exploiting black culture, you could at least make the story make sense to push your message. But they couldn't even be bothered to do that.
No, nonsense. Hating Whitey has to take front and center. And to further illustrate that point, Smoke then stays behind after losing everything to finish
Okay,
off
stop,
the
stop,
KKK.
y'all, stop.
So Smoke
Stop,
stays
second
back
dance.
at the juke instead
When
of
you're ready.
escaping just to kill the
Please.
over-the-top racist evil people.
Now take note what they keep. You see how they keep repeating, ladies and gentlemen. You see how they keep repeating the whole issue of hating Whitey, hating Whitey. Look, please explain. I want someone to explain to us how telling the truth about someone and about events that happen. How is that hating? How is that hate? The issue. There are a lot of Asians who took issue with the fact that Ryan Coogler made actress Lu Jun-Lee, who played Grace Chow, be the weak link. No, what Mr. Coogler was showing is that in reality, where black folks have always been there for every immigrant out here, not one of them, not one, has been there for us. And when we invite people into our circle, these are the very people, after we done fought for them, welcome them in our time of need, lead us high and dry. And in the movie, Grace Chow and her husband Bo Chow, played by Thomas Pang, Grace, in her selfishness, invited the vampires in. She couldn't just hold out because she don't think about her family and what they need, and got everybody killed. Oh, but they don't do that. That's not what's done in real life. When black folks go out here and through civil rights, marching, fighting, every immigrant has been able to get their behinds here in this country. And then what they do, give you their butt to kiss. They're allowed to come into our neighborhoods, and they know when we got our businesses bombed, undermined, sabotaged, but yet like bloodsuckers willfully take the monies that this country gives them to come into our neighborhood and suck our money and everything else dry. They can't handle that reality when it's thrown in their faces. This is why Sinners is getting all the heat it's getting right now, because Ryan Coogler is not Michael B. Jordan. They're not playing no games. And see, they also mad at the white cast of the film because they were liberated enough to actually play these parts and know what the premise was about. Yeah, that's right. Let's just get right down to it. Sinners just opened the door in a whole different thought pattern on how we view ourselves and what our positive and our negatives. And you got certain segments of America that can't stand it, especially when they got to face their evil and what they've done. Let's not forget, as the movie dictated, who made all kinds of promises to black folks? 40 acres and a mule, and didn't keep it. Who made over 400 and some odd peace treaties with the varying North and Seminole Indians in this country and didn't keep one? Who's made promises after promise after promise from a Democratic and Republican standpoint, but more Democratic and didn't keep one? That's what this movie shows you. Now you begin to see, and for those of you who may not have seen the movie, sorry, I should have said spoiler alert at the beginning, but now you're beginning to understand why this movie is hated. Go ahead, 7 Ants. Let's run it out.
Single-handedly takes them all out by himself because, of course, the evil white racists are all incompetent. Now, luckily, the racists have stormtrooper aim and can't hit him even whenever he is stationary, slowly digging up the Tommy gun. But one guy eventually nicks him in the gut. And as he's dying from the bullet wound, he sees Annie and his daughter dressed in white. You know the destination you go to whenever you're a faithful Christian, for whatever reason they believe in that. That part of Christianity isn't evil. We all like that bit. But before he can hold his daughter and be reunited with his baby mama, he has to finish Whitey off for good. Then we cut back to Sammy going back to the church, but for whatever reason, he goes back and doesn't repent, which begs why he even went back there.
And the thing that really stuck out to me as he walks through the church doors is everyone in the church is dressed in white from head to toe. And even the church itself is white. And because what the movie's been telling us all throughout it, I think there's a good case to be made that this represents that the black members of this congregation have embraced their place on the plantation as well as embraced Christianity and have assimilated and accepted the erasure of their identity. If they only rejected God and chose to be sinners, they could be free from the shackles of oppression and embrace the important aspects of their culture like blues and twerking. That's what real freedom looks like. Now, there's a post-credit scene that is set 60 years in the future, and Sammy is now an old man playing music in Chicago. He gets visited by Stack and Mary, who offer him the chance to become a vampire. And if you'll remember, Annie said previously
But they live on, even if the one that made them is killed. They gotta be killed one by one.
And this is just more ammunition to say the vampires in this film are systemic racism, because as we see, it persists through the years and can only ever be stopped by killing anyone who won't conform to the New World Order one by one. And honestly, this is pretty relevant to modern day America, where in the past few years we've seen cities burned to the ground in the name of progress, while white supremacy is the real threat to democracy. But don't pay attention to the fact that the founders of BLM all took the money and ran.
It's also kind of funny considering that the movie tells us over and over again that if blacks could just escape whites, that their culture would flourish. Yet almost every real world example of blacks being completely independent of whites ends in disaster.
Just look at South Africa. In the 2000s, 1,300 Zimbabwe farmers had their lands violently seized, and this was often carried out by state-backed militias. Fast forward to 2020, the Zimbabwe government agreed to compensate 4,000 white farmers, and they committed $3.5 billion over the next 10 years to doing so. And wouldn't you know it, they have consistently failed to meet the stipulated payment deadlines that they set for this.
Now, it's kind of funny when you think about what they said they would do and what they actually did. Is you see that they violently seized Whitey's land, then realized they couldn't maintain it, and had to bribe them to come back to avoid starving, but still didn't hold up their end of the deal. And you have the same scenario in Liberia. I mean, instead of creating a bastion of black excellence, what did they do? Almost as soon as the freed slaves landed, they forced the indigenous Africans to work the fields and tax them heavily.
This is what black excellence looks like when they're free of the white man's oppression. And meanwhile, there's plenty of white groups living off the grid, such as the Amish, that became self-sufficient through community without needing a bunch of government assistance. So despite the film's best efforts to show that white oppression is the only reason blacks can't succeed, we have a lot of real world data to show us that's not the case.
But going back to the film, older Sammy then says despite his immense trauma, which results in having seizures like once a week, he says that day was the best day of his life. And Stack, who is now a vampire, agrees and says,
just for a few hours, it was free.
The board found new
specifically Christianity, is the only way to truly be free. And you'll be labeled as a sinner by the white Christians, but it'll be worth it in the end. Like, what a horrific message to teach to anyone, which just goes to show what we've been telling you the whole time, that to the people who wrote this movie, freedom is the highest virtue, but freedom means nothing more than engaging in degeneracy. That's it. And the message of the movie is that if Black people were to gain their freedom as they see it, they would segregate and engage in as much hedonism as they possibly could. The movie also has a second post-credit scene where you get a flashback to Sammy inside the church singing This Little Light of Mine. Now, the issue I have is that he twisted this song to mean something other than the original intent of the song. The purpose of the song is a call to let the light of Christ be seen in you and to glorify God with your good deeds, as stated in Matthew 5:16, not to let your own light shine through shameless self-affirmation. So finally, to wrap all this up, this film repeatedly tells us that white devils hold the Black population hostage and that their oppressive religion brands them as sinners for even daring to be free.
The twins survived World War I and were able to free themselves from their abusive father. They were able to free themselves of Christianity, and they were able to free themselves of the plantation. And what did they do with this freedom? They robbed the mob, pimped out hoes, and opened a club where sharecroppers could come together to freely cheat on their spouses while getting blackout drunk.
And that's not exaggeration. That is what happens in the movie. We've been shown time and time again that there is no amount of begging, pleading, or even groveling, and there never will be enough to satisfy those who would hold slavery over the head of the white man. If Blacks really cared about improving their lot in America, they'd get their own house in order instead of demanding entrance into yours.
But accountability is racist, dude. White people created that.
But many of them don't do this because the point never was about the righting of past wrongs. It's about gaining dominance over perceived enemies. And if people don't stop accepting blatant propaganda like this film, we're not going to have ourselves a country for much longer. And the country that will come to replace it will be totally unrecognizable.
Oh my God! The niggers are coming! The niggers are taking over! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, do you see why you need the Lion's Den? Do you see why you need the programming that we offer here in the vast varieties that it comes in? Do you see why? Because, you heard what they said? Oh, without white folks, you Blacks wouldn't be able to rule your own. We had our own society. We were doing fine. As a matter of fact, when we had our own businesses, Wall Street, Black Wall Street, and other economies and schools, they came along, bombed them, destroyed them, and to this day, continue to find ways to undermine and sabotage all that we do. And so Ryan Coogler dared. He really crossed the line with this movie. See, vampirism. Here we got now, all in the news. All these people that are being revealed for being pedophiles and flesh eaters and everything. See, don't forget, art imitates life. So is that why they're mad at the movie centers? Huh? Is that why certain Asian enclaves are angry at Ryan Coogler with their portrayal of Bo Child and Grace Child? Huh? When Grace, when the vampires made it clear they would go after her daughter, Lisa Child, in the movie. Grace forgot all about any unity, any kind of togetherness, because she only thought about her interest, which is what most immigrants do in real life. See, when you invite people who are not your people into your house, what happens? They turn it out. Let's stop playing games here. Yeah, this movie is powerful. Ryan Coogler pulled out all the stops. And like I said, people who have lived their lives in lies have insulated themselves in revisionist history. When that, how you say, vampire killer, when the vampire killers come along with the stakes and whatever else weaponry is needed to destroy those lies, they can't handle it. And this is why these guys are just, they're representing a great number of white folks who feel some kind of way about this movie. A movie that deals with what? Reality. Because after all, who has indeed been living off the literal blood, sweat, and tears of our people in this country? Huh? We have they're having a hard time being reminded of that. But yo, you can't escape this. But again, the imagery, however, yeah, it had its moments of, how you say, hedonistic and bohemian qualities, but yet and still, that climate, who brought that climate and pushed that climate onto our people? Let's not forget that in slavery, we were stripped of our culture and civility, had it beat out of us, whipped out of, chained, burned, being forced to be breeders and all that other foolishness. The psychological destruction of civility, buck breaking, with some of these slave owners were raping black men. They can't take that. And these practices are still going on in these prisons. I'm going to say it. They're still sucking the blood of our people. But now with Ryan Coogler going the route that was going on back in the 1970s when brothers and sisters were making powerful movies, showing how this system worked, what group came in and knocked that wave out? I'm going to help you all if you don't go back that far. The NAACP. See, it was the NAACP, the so-called National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, founded by white money. I'm going to repeat that again. That came up with the term blaxploitation. But why? When you had movies in that time frame, 5 on the black hand side, movies like Superfly, that was showing you how America worked. The drug culture was working. Gordon's War. I'm naming titles that some of you may not recognize. Starring the late Paul Winfield, Grace Jones. All right. Movies like Across 110th Street that showed black men and women taking charge and kicking behind, taking and making strides to make things right, emphasizing the issue of responsibility and accountability. Oh no, there were certain elements that had to put the brakes on that. And the NAACP was the conduit used. And when you had black actors and actresses at the time, like John Amos, the late Esther Rowe, who played Florida Evans on Good Times, the late Jeanette Dubois, who played Winona. When they were pooling their monies, trying to get their own production companies off the ground. That's right. In comes the NAACP. And then at the time, you had a movie mogul, if you want to call him a movie mogul. You had Sig Shore, and then Norman Lear stealing the works of the then producers of that time. That's right. This has been going on for a very long time. See, Norman Lear didn't write Good Times. Okay? Norman Lear didn't write The Jeffersons. Norman Lear had nothing to do with writing What's Happening. Norman Lear did not write black shows like That's My Mama and so many other titles. No, he didn't. All he did was come along and take from black writers and producers of the day, okay, and steal their work. When you had Good Times going on, it was, what was this guy, the brother's name? Okay, I'll name one co-writer of Good Times, the real Michael Evans, but we knew him as Lionel Jefferson on The Jeffersons. Actor Mike Evans, who Ralph Carter, his character was based on Mike Evans, who lived in Cabrini Green in Chicago. He was one of the co-writers of Good Times. That's his life story. That's why for a number of seasons, he left The Jeffersons to direct and write with, okay, the brother's name escapes my memory. It's going to come to me as we continue this discussion. And if there's anyone who wants to come in and join the discussion, Seventh Answer, put the link in. For all my night owls and dedicated soldiers on the East Coast here with me and rocking out on the midnight hour, I guess, on the West Coast, and in whatever time zone you're watching this show, good morning to some of you out there, or good afternoon, and you want to come in and discuss this issue, by all means, drop the link and come on in. But like I was saying, during the 1970s, going into the 80s, the NAACP and other white groups came in and usurped and undermined all those powerful movies. And then the takeover came about where, you know, this whole pushing of the pimp and the drug dealer and the prostitute started becoming more prevalent in what they call black exploitation movies. You know, you might see movies like The Mac, but the Mac had that starred the late Max Julien and Richard Pryor. Movies like that had messages and themes to get away from the life, to get away from criminality. Although it looked like they were glorifying it in some instances. But what I'm pointing to and what we're showing you is that, again, there are elements out here who don't want to see powerful, strong black men and women ever again. See, before Sinners, you had actor Carl Lumbly, back in 1989, going into 1990, or 1990 into 91, there was a show called Mantis. I forget what the acronym stands for, but in long story short, actor Carl Lumbly, he portrayed a scientist, an inventor who was handicapped, crippled, but he made an exoskeleton type suit. They gave him superpowers, made him able to walk and all that. Oh, that show, man, the Nielsen ratings were through the roof. Black folks were watching that show like it was going out of style. But Hollywood and the executives said, yank, hell no. We're not going to show no black man being no scientist and doing what's right towards the people and being a superhero. No way. And then you had Avery Brooks, the spinoff show from a show that was titled Spencer for Hire. Well, Avery Brooks, he took off being known as Hawk. Well, there were those who want to give him a spinoff show called The Man Called Hawk. And oh, the ratings were through the roof, but Hollywood and certain they could not handle seeing no black man kicking butt, taking no prisoners, laying the hammer down and doing it intelligently. Oh no, you're not gonna say, oh no. Yank. That's why when as time went on, the Cosby Show got yanked. Bill Cosby, the Cosby Show got yanked. You know, the image of having a black man as a doctor and his wife as a lawyer and his children are doing good and they're in their children's lives, making time to be in their children's lives despite their careers. Hell no, that had to go. And of course, the spinoff show, A Different World, when it originally starred Lisa Bonet, who played Denise Huxtable, they tried to push this multicultural and they tried to make it what it wasn't. But when Debbie Allen, sister of Felicia Rashad, when she took over the helm of A Different World, she got it right back where it's supposed to be. But the executive said, no, this is just too black, too strong, and inspiring black folk to go to school. A historically black college, it was successful, and no, that had to go. And then all the foolishness and the imagery of black men. Now you gotta wear a dress, Tyler Perry became fashionable. I'm just gonna lay it out. You know what I'm saying is true. I'm not making this up. So here it is, we have sinners. And that's why, Hollywood is big mad. Because again, Ryan Coogler has taken over where the late John Singleton and Nipsey Hussle left off. Because they both came down with a severe case of death all of a sudden. When John Singleton, he made Boys in the Hood and a few other movies, but they all had messages. They had a direction. The whole issue of speaking out against gentrification and black folks pooling their monies, and we need to do business and take our neighborhoods back. Oh, they They had to go. And they, like I said, they both wound up dying months apart. And let's not forget that Nipsey Hussle's killer blurted out in a courtroom that the United States government paid him $75,000 to kill that man. Go look it up if you don't believe me. Go look it up. But my point is, Sinners is that movie. And if you haven't seen it, by all means, go check it out. It's that movie that has dared to show, I'm repeating it again, show you how this world gives it up. See, what they had a problem with also, with actor Jack O'Connell, who played Remick, the head vampire. When he tells actor Sammy Moore, okay, played by Miles Caton, actor Miles Caton, he tells him, I need you, Sammy, because with your talents and your abilities, my boy, you can get me back to my family and those that I miss. Through your music and your creativity, I'm able to touch zones that I can't touch without you. You're my bridge, Sammy. I need you. Listen, for all my white listeners out there, I know you're having a hard time with the fact that your entire existence is due to the 400 plus inventions created by black folk. Your entire economy, every war that you've won, due to black folk. Though you don't want to give us credit for it. Our music, our creativity has made you what you are and made this country what it is. But you don't want to be reminded of it. You heard what those two guys said in those two movie reviewers. You heard what they said. Oh, black culture, black culture. But wait a minute, hold on. Black culture, the world over, replicated, duplicated. Everybody wanna sing, dance, create. Like who? Us? As rapper, entrepreneur Chris Parker, better known as KRS-One, said on one of his songs, "You must learn," not you must learn. MCs out, they don't know. It was a part he says, now word. What goes around comes around, I figure. Now you got white kids calling themselves nigga. Yeah, see, what the real issue is, as Sinners lays out how you all operate. When it comes down to Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and all those white acts from back in the day, who did they get their style from? Who did they rob, cheat, and undermine? From Little Richard, Bo Diddley, Wilson Pickett, Sam Cooke, and the list goes on and on and on. And y'all can't handle it. Because Sinners is showing you, yeah, vampire. Your inability to face the fact that when it comes down to the issue of competing, that if on a level and even playing field, you can't compete. Even right now, in media, It's shows like this and others that are keeping you afloat. And your viewership and listenership through the roofs, though you don't want to admit it. So here it is. This so when you wonder why, when again Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo went to England, all right, and got verbally assailed by John Davidson, a so-called movie producer and activist, so-called, and he called them a nigger bitch. Now you know why. Yeah, that's right. See, I'm convinced, I can't prove it, and I can admit that, he was a plant. They definitely put him there to say that because he was only articulating what they all think and what they were all feeling, considering the fact that even overseas in foreign markets, Sinners is blazing the charts movie-wise. And again, in these last, 10 to 15 years, the Marvel movies, with the exception, every movie, Black produced, especially Ryan Coogler's, man, they have surpassed white production out here. That's right. And that's what the real crux of the problem is. This world, this society has had a hard time with the fact that, indeed, they're parasitic. If you don't want to use the word vampire, let's use the word parasitic. Symbiote. Leech type relationship with us has been how they've been able to survive. But those who don't want to be accountable don't like being reminded of that. See, all this projection. Here with Black folk, we're told that we're not responsible. Oh, we're irresponsible. Oh, without mighty whitey, you wouldn't be able to exist and you wouldn't be able to have your own society. See, that's projection. Considering the fact that who helped them learn how to agriculture the lands they lived and took over? The Amish, they're independent. No, they're not. They're not independent. They get plenty of government subsidies and monies to make their communities work. They get plenty of money for all that farming that they do on those lands that was given to them when they so-called migrated over here. See, like I said, this white revisionist history does a lot of you white folks a great disservice when, again, a movie has some of you so uncomfortable. But why? Because it's showing you the social construct of America. A lot of you Asians feel some kind of way about how Grace Chow and Bo Chow, but Grace in particular, when she tells her husband, the spoiler alert, at one point when the vampires are now made themselves known, trying to get into the club, Grace tells her husband, look, get the car and let's get out of here. And then her husband said, but baby, we here now. And she said, no, we just came to help make the food. We didn't come here to fight what they got to fight. And in real life, Black folks have been at the helm of Arab, Asian, and everybody's plight and fight, right? I know you don't want to admit it. I know it is irking you out there as you listen to this broadcast. I know it's irking you to your core to hear me say it. But in the end, to all my Black listeners out there, name one immigrant group when it came time now to help us fight, to reciprocate the loyalty and devotion we showed them. Name one group that's ever come forth. Exactly. You hear crickets. You can't name one. And in the movie, here it is. In 1930s, Delta. Yeah, there were an Asian community that was there. They certainly were being used at that time and prepared future-wise to be the buffer group that white America would use, put them in our neighborhood, undermine our businesses as they were bombing and flooding everything we had going on at that time. So Centers was laying bare. Ryan Coogler laid bare exactly how this society give it up. Let's not forget, for some of you who've seen the video, when Mr. Coogler went into a bank, presented his bank card, put in his PIN and all that, and an overzealous teller almost got the man killed. Almost got him killed. And here it is. He went through the proper channels to withdraw his money. And this idiot, Black of course, in this instant, almost got him killed. Because the cops didn't even waste no time drawing their guns while he's standing online, waiting his turn. While waiting his turn. He's standing online, has his bank card, everything out. Put his PIN number in, and this dumbass thinks he's trying to rob the bank. Because he passed her a note instructing the teller on how to give him his money because he was making a huge withdrawal. So like I said, boy, we got a lot of America angry with Ryan Coogler. And now, here it is, when you had the Native American, you heard how these guys felt about the Native American, the Choctaw, as a matter of fact, who were chasing down Remick, wanting to destroy him. Boy, they don't like being reminded how they got America. Murdering and marauding and destroying the Native and Seminole American and Native Americans and Seminole Indians. I could see if the movie told lies, but it didn't. It hasn't told any lies. And again, the way you give it up, white America, for those who are listening on this end, you can't say that what we talk about and present here on this show is a lie. Like other academicians, if I'm saying it correctly, have pointed out. Your racism is so prevalent that when it comes down to the issue of sharing power, you can't. It's just, you just absolutely can't. So I'm glad that Sinners has become the juggernaut that it is. Despite all the criticisms by all those who are offended by how they're portrayed, and because that's how they are in real life, people the world over have spoken. The box office computations have spoken. And that's why I'm glad that in particular the team of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan have been winning. I'm glad they're winning. I'm absolutely ecstatic about it. I mean, here it is. Even with the Black Panther movies, there was a lot of criticism because of the social commentary that those movies laid out. But listen, you look, like the old song by rap group The Far Side, you can't keep running away. You can't keep running away. Look, reality, no matter how much you try to dodge, spin, parry, reality is gonna still slap and drop kick you in your face. The movie shows the underbelly of our society, and here it is. When you make deals with the devil under Christianity, because let's face it, what has Christianity done for our people in this country? You know, that whole notion that that white Christians, Catholics, came about telling us about this God who loves everybody, but seems to always be on a coffee break when our folks was being lynched, burned, maimed, being fed to alligators, breeded like cattle, sold like a chicken or a cow. Where was this God who loves everybody then? That you forced down our throats? The whole white image of Christ that was beat into our conscious, subconscious, and every other kind of conscious you could think of. And yet you're out there mad because Sinners shows you exactly how America and those who've been benefiting from this vampire, flesh-eating society have been giving it up. Wow. Unbelievable. Let me see who's talking real quick, if anyone's talking. Oh, I see. Oh, Tyrone's in the house. And you say the Irish have been rocking with the Choctaw? You say that Sinners is about the Choctaw, Kataha, sin, we accept our lick like G's, Mississippi, the land of Yasha Allah. All right. Now, I don't know about the Choctaw rocking with the Irish, but I do understand what you mean. And welcome, Mississippi. Moving on. But for those who are listening, like I said, we are not racist. We're not bigoted racist. But what we are not going to do is sit by and have people tell lies or spread lies about us, criticize the bodies of our work, and I'm gonna say our, I claim it. I claim Sinners. I claim anything that's positive and black. I claim it. I own it. It's ours. I'm not gonna let someone come along and just talk about it when they're lying, or because they can't handle the reality that these movies articulate. So again, like I said, from the 1970s till now, who has indeed been at the forefront, side and back, eating off of us, and yet we don't get no credit? As I said, Wesley Snipes, when he tried to buy the rights to Black Panther, after he saved Marvel from bankruptcy, when he tried to buy the rights to Black Panther before, I forget what company took it over, because he originally wanted to be T'Challa, or he was going to recruit someone to be T'Challa, and he would produce and direct it. But no, Marvel didn't want to sell it to him. And when Michael Jackson tried to buy Marvel, was looking to leverage money to buy Marvel Comics and Enterprises, oh, they shut that deal down quick, because they learned from after Michael had gangstered Sony through when he bought ATV Records for $40 million. They learned, oh, hell no. Michael Jackson and Wesley Snipes would have owned owned Marvel? No, hell no. And see, that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And so Sinners is saying, so let's just get right down to it. Ryan Coogler, the messages received. We need to stop inviting people to the barbecue. We need to stop being so welcoming to those who don't mean us no harm. Because here it is right now, which we're going to be talking about on our Conversation Continues segment. Here you got Ghana right now. Somehow they done weaseled and wormed their way in to the forefront of the reparations movement that foundational Black Americans put into play. Somehow, using some Black Americans, traitors, you have Ghana trying to worm and weasel their way, one of the main tribes of people who sold us into slavery, now at the forefront. You see what happens when you be too welcoming? You see what happens when you let vampires in? Sinners. You see what happens? So Ryan, how is Sinners winning at the box office? And you white folks are mad. You know why you're really mad though? Because here it is. Most of your heroes and those of you that you admire from a movie standpoint have been fictitious. They're not real. Many of the movies that Black folks produce and make, they're made up. They're not made up. They're actually based on real people. That's another reason why a lot of you geeks, you're mad and you're upset. And many of the movies that we produce and make are made up of, are talking about real people that actually existed, that history has so casually removed. You know, when Spike Lee made Malcolm X. We know that Malcolm X was the highest grossing film in that time frame. But what did you all do? You propped up Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven and put it in the forefront. At all costs, there was no way you were going to have Spike Lee, Denzel Washington, you know, and the rest of the cast, Delroy Lindo, Delroy Lindo, Angela Bassett. There was no way y'all were going to let Malcolm X be an Academy Award winning movie. But you mad because Malcolm X was an actual person. The Hurricane, which starred Denzel Washington, based upon the story of Reuben Hurricane Carter, who was unjustly convicted for a crime he didn't commit. Oh, there was no way you were going to let that movie be an Academy Award winning movie. Hell no. See, destroying Black imagery and strength and power and majesty. There was no way Halle Berry could have gotten an Oscar for, or an Academy, or Golden Globe, whatever awards were appropriate, for Losing Isaiah, being Dorothy Dandridge, which in my opinion are two of her most outstanding performances. Oh, nah. But when she did Monsters Ball, yeah, we'll give you the Oscar for that. When Denzel Washington was a crooked, corrupt cop in Training Day, oh, now he gets the Oscar. Oh, you'll reward all that though. When comedian Monique, she didn't get a Golden Globe for her outrageously over-the-top performance as Nikki Parker on The Parkers, but she did get that Oscar for that, what, Precious, I think it was called. Yeah. Being a degenerate. See, this is what you do. Black imagery where degeneracy and foolishness, that's catapulted and exalted. But when Ryan Coogler makes the movie Sinners and shows how you operate, you can't take it. And I'm going to keep repeating, art imitates life. When television shows, Black television shows, were promoting Black responsibility, Black ownership, entrepreneurship, in comes all these other people who didn't write, weren't involved in the creativity to take it over. You took it over. But you don't want it to be talked about. You don't want to be reminded of that. And so when you tune into now After Midnight, okay, or the midnight hour, depending on how we get this thing off the ground for our late night into early morning viewership and listenership. Yo, that's why you need these shows. Because, as Malcolm X pointed out, don't have somebody tell you about you. And don't let someone lie on you and then you just let them get away with it. That's not how life works. And that's why the Seventh Answer and myself, we take the responsibility. We take the responsibility of coming here and take all interlopers, charlatans, fakes, kooks, and crazies. We take them on, turn them out, and discombobulate them. Because we cannot afford at this critical time to continue to let someone else tell us about us and then get mad when we won't let them lie on us. I mean, now going back, getting back on Good Times and all those, what's happening. It was Eric Monte. His name was Eric Monte. Writer Eric Monte and Mike Evans, who wrote Good Times, The Jeffersons, who wrote What's Happening. But who benefited from those? Norman Lear. Who undermined both those, the late Michael Evans and Eric? Who undermined Eric Monte where he wound up living in a homeless shelter? But was a top writer of top sitcom situation comedies in the 70s, going into the 80s. Had his work stolen. That's right. We had our work stolen. And so you're mad because Sinners shows that vampire. For years, I always thought Norman Lear was this pioneering writer and creator, daring and all. And meanwhile, all he did was use his pull and leveraged out the works of Eric Monte and Mike Evans, who affectionately we call the real Lionel. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. So, like I said, for those of you out there, if you haven't seen Sinners, I highly recommend it. It's that good. It really is that good. And it's just direct, and it's direct in race relations and how things work. And so when we come here now, we give you our spin and we're giving you our observations because you know why? It's burning me up when now you have Nathaniel Sherrod Jr., who's now claiming that Ryan Coogler stole his work. Now, this particular case, it's building now, it's gaining its legs and traction, and we're going to see how this turns out. But I do say, I find it interesting how now after then, where Sinners did win some of the Oscars, they should have won them all. You know, I don't know why. I do know why Ryan Coogler didn't get Director of the Year. I know why he didn't get it. They just couldn't give all the Oscars to him that night. But here it is again, like I said. You have all these interlopers now coming out the woodpile. Now Mr. Nathaniel Sherrod Jr. is claiming that Ryan Coogler stole his work from an independent movie titled Bloody Freaks. That's an interesting and colorful title. But timing is everything, as JJ 7000 would say. Timing is everything. And we're going to see if indeed Ryan Coogler stole this man's work. And I'm going to say this here. We're going to cut this production short. I'm going to, it's about to be 3:30 here, and I'm getting a little tanked out. Sorry, y'all. I'm only human. Human. I had a little bit of a caffeine rush, but I think that 2.5 hours is good. All right. And this is the pilot show for after the midnight hour. I know some of y'all, ooh, Smashing Idol, Sadiq Ra, and so many others. Oh, I know y'all gonna be mad that y'all missed this conversation. I know, but some of y'all, if you're in my time zone, you probably had to work and you had to get some sleep or whatever. I know y'all gonna be mad. But in closing, right? The Seventh Answer, Black Beauty Inc., and myself, Dark Storm, we want to thank you for allowing us to come into your mind, soul, and cipher. We hope that you've enjoyed, right? We hope that you've enjoyed the formulation that we bring here on the After the Midnight Hour segment. And that is that we bring what? Let me calm down and not be so fast in talking. We bring what is called the dedication factor. And that is focus, determination, and concentration. As we discuss the matter of an issue, the truth of an issue, the spirit of an issue, and the essence of an issue. We just get right down to the nitty gritty. And so when it comes down to our review of sinners and just showing you the hate, the racist, bigoted vitriol, both overseas and here in America, we've gotten to the matter and the truth and the spirit and essence that America is just a hopelessly bigoted, racist, trifling skunk of a society. Oh, what, you mad? You don't like what I'm saying? But hold on, though. Here we are right now, knee-deep in all types of revelations of leaders out here who have been partaking in all kinds of weird practices, sexual and otherwise, right? So what is wrong with what I'm saying? People, we're getting taxed up to our ears. And this tax money being used to finance unjust wars. Where am I wrong in saying that? You have all these Gestapo and Nazi mind police and ICE agents out here out of control. So where am I wrong in saying what was just said about how America is viewed the world over? Unless you can prove me wrong. Here it is, the self-proclaimed land of the free and home of the brave. But yet, every right and privilege we should be enjoying in these last 25 years have been gradually chipped away. Even our freedom to speak and analyze things from an intellectual standpoint. You have certain people want to put roadblocks, block algorithms and all that. Come on, stop. So in closing, the Seventh Answer and myself, Dark Storm, we thank you. If you want to support, you see our Cash Apps, $ Black Beauty Inc., and you got myself, $ Darkstorm11. Support. Throw a little something out. Throw a little love our way. We're not asking you to give us $1 million so we can get a jet or some kind of luxury car. No. Just help us with day-to-day living and also being able to make rounds, to do research and all that. There's certain, and I can say this here, there's certain domains I want to get into. They charge a little fee. All right, so again, hit the Cash Apps, $Black Beauty Inc. Hit the stars and to help Karima. Hit $ Darkstorm11 if you want to contribute. If not, that's fine. If you don't, just so long as you're listening, hit the like and subscribe. Let us know what you think about this pilot show. And so, in closing, one more time, we always thank you for trusting us. We thank you for riding with us. All my night owls kicking it with me at 3:30 in the morning. Oh my God. And on the West Coast out there, I guess now, I guess you guys are at 12 o'clock if I'm not mistaken. But still, you rocking out with us. You're burning the midnight oil. And so in closing, one more time, this has been the pilot episode of After the Midnight Hour. I am Darkstorm and Black Beauty Inc. We say, as always, in the spirit once known as Don Cornelius on the Hebrew tip, as we give honor to the Lord in Christ, from whom all thoughts positive flow. Shalom, peace, ahab, love, and Napash, soul. And like I said, smashing the idol is a big raw. Sorry, brothers, sorry. Maybe next time. And with that, we're up out of here. Take us out of here, Seventh Answer.